Well, we've finally arrived to it. I get to talk about not just my all-time favorite horror movie, but my favorite movie of all time. A movie that has had the biggest impact on my love of film. And I'm not just saying all this because I'm terrified I'm being watched. Welcome back everybody, Tensa here to bring you a new franchise overview on Real Horror. Today I begin to tackle the final franchise of what many have dubbed to be part of the Big Three. We're starting off with the immortal classic, John Carpenter's Halloween. In the 1970s, people began to see a change in horror. Before, people were used to the universal villains like Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, etc. In 1960, Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho shocked audiences with its depiction of violence and mental illness. Many fans of horror dub it as being one of, if not the first, slasher movies. However, it wasn't until the 1970s that modern moviegoers were introduced to more realistic approaches to horror. In 1973, The Exorcist took the world by storm as people's faiths were tested thanks to the horrific presentation of a young girl possessed by a demon. In 1974, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre used exploitation to its benefit to display just how insane and horrific people out there really can be. And in 1975, Jaws used a real monster of the deep to keep people from ever entering the ocean again. But in 1978, John Carpenter would release a tiny film that would terrify audiences and unknowingly shape the following decade's approach to horror. Halloween was shot in 21 days with a budget of $350,000 with a relatively small crew of newcomers. Little did they know that they were creating what would become a staple of the genre. Coming off his second theatrical release, Assault on Precinct 13, USC film graduate John Carpenter was approached by film producer Irwin Yablans to collaborate and make a scary movie about babysitters being killed off. After receiving the funding from another producer, Mustafa Akkad, Carpenter and his at-the-time girlfriend Deborah Hill wrote the script for The Babysitter Murders. However, Yablans came to them at one point and suggested setting the events of the film around Halloween and renamed the title to reflect this change. The rest is clearly history. Dean Cundey, who would become well known for shooting films like Back to the Future and Jurassic Park, was hired to do the cinematography. Jamie Lee Curtis, daughter of Psycho's Janet Leigh, was chosen to play the role of heroine Laurie Strode, partially thanks to her mother's reputation, while Carpenter's college buddy Nick Castle was cast to play the emotionless shape Michael Myers. Finally, established British actor Donald Pleasance was brought in to play the psychiatrist hell-bent on capturing Michael, Dr. Loomis. How could this small, independent movie with a shoestring budget become a classic? Let's find out. Right off the bat, there's a simple opening that zooms in on a pumpkin, but it's John Carpenter's score that gives you chills from the get-go. Let's not deny it here. This is probably one of the most iconic scores in movie history. It's incredibly chilling and almost becomes a character within the movie itself. And Carpenter composed it in a week. We move on to October 31st, 1963, and a POV is stalking a young couple. They sneak into the house, grabbing a large butcher knife, and just miss getting caught by the girl's one-pump chump of a boyfriend. Moving upstairs, the person stabs the girl multiple times and quickly flees back outside, only to be caught.
Michael?
Love everything here in the opening. I gushed over the credits, but the whole stalk, kill, and reveal of a young Michael being the killer is done well. They used a trick to make it appear as though it all happened in one take, and while you can kind of tell where they did break, Dean Cundey and his Panaglide camera assistant Ray Stella did an awesome job of pulling off the scene the way Carpenter wanted to. Jump to October 30th, 1978, and Dr. Loomis is on his way with Nurse Chambers to Smiths Grove Sanitarium to transport Michael Myers to a court hearing. Chambers is fairly calm, but Loomis constantly refers to Michael as it, an early indicator to us that we are dealing with something, not someone, that is beyond comprehension. When they arrive, mental patients are just roaming around outside in the rain. After Loomis gets out to call up to the sanitarium, Nurse Chambers is attacked by Michael, who manages to steal their car.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
And no, there's no real explanation as to how a man institutionalized for 15 years has the knowledge to drive a car. I don't know, he was doing very well, so maybe someone around there gave him lessons. The following morning, on Halloween, in Haddonfield, Laurie Strode is on her way to school when she bumps into Tommy Doyle, a young boy she's going to be babysitting later that night. She has to drop a key off at the old creepy Myers house for her father, the realtor, much to Tommy's opposition. The task appears to go off without any issues, but little does Laurie know that this was the beginning of an obsession. action.
I wish I had you all alone, just the two of us.
During a class discussion, Laurie happens to peer out the window and notice Michael, or the Shape, staring her down with laser focus until her teacher calls upon her to answer a question about fate.
Fate is immovable, like a mountain. It stands where man passes away. Fate never changes.
This could be taken as a boring school lesson, but I love it because it definitely relates to Laurie. Her fate, eventually having to deal with the Shape that's locked onto her, is set in stone. Fate is an immovable force that can't be changed, similar to Michael himself. Over at Tommy's school, he's being harassed by his bully Lonnie, who tells him that the boogeyman, who always comes out on Halloween, is going to be coming after him. Tommy is tripped, crushing his pumpkin. I always feel really bad there. And the bullies take off. Such a good jump scare, doesn't feel cheap at all. I'm looking at you, Nightmare 2010. Loomis is hot on Michael's trail, stopping to call the Haddonfield police to warn them that evil is on its way. At which point he notices a truck crashed on the side that has discarded hospital robes, but what he doesn't see is the dead body of that truck driver. School's out, so Laurie is on her way home with her friends Linda and Annie. I've always felt kind of bad for Laurie that these two were her friends, because to be honest, they're kind of dicks to her. Deborah Hill was responsible for writing the girls' dialogue, and she did a good job of giving teen girls stuff to say that is honestly believable, which is often rare. Doesn't mean that there aren't some cringe moments.
So who cares? I always forget my chemistry book and my math book and my English book and my French book and, well, who needs books anyway? I don't need books.
Shut up about the books! After Michael does a drive-by staring contest, the girls make plans to hang out since they'll be babysitting close by. Laurie sees Michael again in front of a hedge, but Annie doesn't, and boils it down to Laurie just being a wacko seeing men behind bushes. Once home, you'd think Laurie would be safe. Michael just standing there by the clothesline is one of the many shots that I adore. It's so creepy because you can kind of get a look at his mask, but with the sheets in the wind it's hard to tell, so by the time you think you can make him out, he's already vanished. You start to wonder if he was ever even really there since Laurie never looks away from the window. Meanwhile, Loomis has made it to Haddonfield and wants to visit the gravestone for Judith Myers, the sister Michael murdered. However, when they arrive to it, the stone has been stolen.
Judith Myers. He came home.
Laurie and Annie are on their way to babysit, smoking a little dope, when they notice Annie's dad, Sheriff Brackett, is at the scene of a break-in. Naturally, instead of driving right on by with their car reeking of marijuana, they pull up to chat and see what's going on. Apparently, someone broke into the hardware store and stole a Halloween mask, a rope, and a couple of knives. Nothing that would cause any type of panic. Weird thing has always been that the alarm to the hardware store is still blaring. Michael would have broken in earlier to already have the mask, so why in the early evening is the alarm still going off? Not particularly good continuity, but I let it slide. After the girls leave, Brackett is approached by Loomis, who requests his assistance, unaware that his target is close by. With the girls now at the houses, Michael starts with his stalking of Annie. But we gotta check out the Myers house with Brackett and Loomis, since he's certain it's where Michael will return to. They find a dead dog that Michael fed upon and inspect the rest of the place until Loomis explains what Michael is to him.
I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
God damn it, I wish I could play his whole speech because it is absolutely one of my favorite monologues in film. Up to this point, we don't know what these characters are dealing with here, just a stealthy guy in a white mask. But it's here that Loomis finally reveals why he's so afraid, and it's because what they're dealing with is pure evil, something that lacks empathy, reasoning, or a conscience. Loomis recognized this as something he had to contain, but with it having escaped, he sees himself as the one who must save people from the malevolent force. Loomis is without a doubt one of my favorite movie characters. He's unfortunately cursed with the duty of keeping Michael at bay from the people who think he's just a crazy old man. He's somewhat tragic, but he knows what he has to do. Meanwhile, Michael is hard at work keeping an eye on Annie. The house dog Lester tries to go after him, but Michael adds another pet to his body count. Annie heads out to the laundry to clean her buttered up clothes, but gets her butt stuck in there, prompting little Lindsay Wallace to help her out so she can take a call from her boyfriend Paul.
All right, cut it out. It can happen to anyone.
Sure, stuck in the window.
Yeah, but I've seen you stuck in plenty of other positions.
My parents are gone.
I think it was in my Friday the 13th Part 2 review that I mentioned I hate the feeling of being watched. So you can bet that shit with Michael just standing there unbeknownst to others freaks me right out. Annie takes Lindsay over to Tommy's house so that Lori can watch them while she goes to meet up with Paul. But when she gets in the car to take off, okay, the suspense building up to Annie's death was executed well, but that damn death face is so dumb. It's a complete over-exaggeration that almost ruins the moment by being silly. Over at the Doyle house, Tommy witnesses Michael carrying Annie's body into the Wallace house, prompting him to scream at Lori that he saw the boogeyman. Naturally, she doesn't believe him. Over at the Myers house, Loomis is keeping watch when Lonnie and his friends try to sneak inside.
Hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there.
So proud of himself. Probably the most fun he's had in 15 years. Linda shows up at the Wallace's house with her boyfriend Bob to do what horny teens do best, but little do they know they're not alone. After their session upstairs, Bob leaves to get beer, but some bumps in the night lead him to investigate.
Come on out.
Yup, this is my favorite kill in the series. The aggressive jump from the closet, the display of Michael's strength with him lifting up Bob and impaling him to the wall, then his observation of what he's just done are awesome. The head tilt has become a trademark of the character, but I think it's done best here. There's that dead silence after the blaring music as he just stands there and almost admires his work. We see that lack of empathy or understanding Loomis spoke about. Michael moves on to Linda wearing a ghost sheet and Bob's glasses. Some people may find it goofy, but I find it eerie since we know it's Michael, but Linda has no idea that it's not only not Bob, but the guy under the sheet is gonna murder her, which he does by strangling her with a phone cord after she attempted to call Lori. Loomis, still at the Myers house, appears a little restless when he looks slightly to his left and discovers the Smiths Grove car Michael has been driving around. Okay, this is one of my biggest pet peeves for multiple reasons. Loomis has been standing in front of the Myers house all night. How could he only just now be seeing the car? Wouldn't he have seen Michael drop it off? And in the beginning, Lori was able to simply walk to the Myers house, but Annie had to pick her up and drive them to get to the kids' houses. So is the Myers house close to Lori or close to the kids? This becomes a huge error in geography. It's a little frustrating, but again, I try not to harp on it too badly. If you think I'm a hypocrite for that, well, guess what? I don't give a shit. I still love this movie, flaws and all. Curious as to what's going on across the street, Lori heads over to see what her friends are up to. Oh, nothing, just hanging around. Oh my God, love the lighting effect. Dean Cundy simply used a blue light dimmer to gradually reveal Michael hiding, and it's so well done. It takes your eyes a second to adjust, and then bam, he's got Lori. My all-time favorite chase scene commences as Michael is done stalking and goes straight for Lori. She's almost caught in the kitchen, but she narrowly escapes, racing to the neighbors for help, but her cries are ignored. She runs back to the Doyle house, but the door is locked, and she's lost the keys. She pleads for Tommy to open up as Michael closes in. Doesn't matter how many times I watch it, I'm always on the edge of my seat during this scene. I, along with Lori, am screaming at Tommy to open the goddamn door, with Michael slowly but surely getting closer. She does make it back inside, but there's a surprise attack that is easily dodged and countered with a knitting needle to Michael's neck. No one could survive such a blow, so Lori goes upstairs to tell the kids that everything is alright and she killed the intruder.
You can't kill the boogeyman.
Get in there, come on, Tommy! Now lock the door!
Lori's best thought is to conceal herself in the closet to escape the boogeyman, but not only does he find her with ease, that son of a bitch punches his way in. Completely trapped, there's no way anyone can make it out of this. But Lori does, managing to stab Michael in the eye with a wire hanger, causing him to drop his knife, which she plunges into his stomach, taking him down. She feels well enough to toss the knife aside and instruct the kids to go to the neighbors down the street and call for help. Looks like everything's gonna be alright. Favorite shot. I freaking love it. The casual sit-up after getting a wire in the eye and knife to the stomach seems so damn impossible, but my god, he doesn't and locks his eyes back on his prey. It gives me chills and gets me weirdly pumped. I really like that they chose to keep him out of focus the moment he sits up. You could have made him clearer, but opting to keep the focus on Laurie was better because your eyes are on her, so when he rises, it shocks you just right. Loomis sees Tommy and Lindsay running out of the house, causing him to run inside and save Laurie after Michael attempts to choke her to death. She rips off his mask, giving us a quick glimpse at his face before he puts it back on and gets shot 6 times by Loomis, falling off the balcony. Laurie admits that there was a boogeyman as Loomis goes to investigate Michael. Loomis is not surprised by Michael's disappearance as the movie ends with shots of the various locations as the shape breathes heavily, letting us know that he is everywhere. My overall thoughts on Halloween. Take a wild guess. Yes, this is indeed my favorite movie of all time. What else can I say that hasn't already been said about this movie since everyone and their grandmother has already reviewed it? I truly believe it's a classic in every sense of the word, as it's been 42 years and it still stands the test of time of being a genuinely tense, scary film. Many call it a slow burn, and while it is, it's never been slow to me. I'm engaged with all the characters and what they're going through, whether it's Laurie, Loomis, Michael, or hell, even Tommy. I think some people get turned off and say, oh, nothing happens forever, it's boring. Sorry, this isn't The Conjuring, where things are jumping out and screaming at you every 10 minutes. Halloween builds suspense as Michael Myers, a pure force of nature, progressively gets closer and closer to his victims. Michael watches and stalks with such precision that it becomes inhuman, making him more than just a guy in a mask, but evil incarnate. Although the mask is absolutely iconic, as its blank and emotionless expression is enough to send a chill up your spine whenever you catch a glimpse of it. I think everyone knows this, but for those of you that don't, it was originally going to be an Emmett Kelly sad clown mask. However, production designer Tommy Lee Wallace picked up a William Shatner Captain Kirk mask along with the clown mask. After painting it white, teasing the hair, removing the eyebrows, and a few other minor adjustments, they created the notorious mask for what the script simply referred to as the Shape. Jason Voorhees will always be my boy, but I find Michael to be the scariest of them all. His look, movements, unwillingness to die, and just pure aura of evil he emits makes him more frightening and frankly more interesting. I do always talk about the kills in my reviews, and while nothing spectacular like a machete to the face or drag up the wall happens, it doesn't bother me. Bob's death is my all-time favorite, Judith's multiple stabs set up the movie well, and Annie and Linda's deaths are scary with the backseat surprise and Ghost Bob costume. They're somewhat believable, and that's what makes them scary and not necessarily uneventful. I do like the characters in this movie, even when they're acting ridiculous or mean. Linda and Annie are just so cruel to Laurie sometimes, but they never get to the level of unlikable, and I don't ever get the sense that they would never hang out, because sometimes friends just rip on each other. Laurie is certainly a top-tier final girl thanks to the build-up of her character as being someone you hope will be able to fight back and win when the Shape finally confronts her after keeping his eye on her. She's a very responsible protector of the children and fends off Michael extremely well. I think I said enough about Loomis earlier. Donald Pleasance hits it out of the park in a role I will always commend. Dean Cundy's cinematography work is fantastic. They got the best cameras so that they can make this cheap movie look like $1 million. The lighting used throughout, including the dark blues during the night scenes, look amazing. It's a brilliantly shot piece of work. Finally, I gotta give high praise to John Carpenter for directing and composing his ass off here. He makes the movie flow naturally, builds up that intensity, has you care about the characters, and creates a soundtrack that will never be forgotten. He was just a kid out of college, put in charge of a movie about babysitters getting killed. He demanded the final cut of the film and his name above the title. A daring move for a newcomer, but Carpenter was a ballsy guy and it paid off. It's his tenacity that may be the reason I like him and the movie so much. It shows that even with hardly any money, a small crew, and simple premise, you can go on to create something that will live on forever as long as you take risks and work your ass off. That is why Halloween is my favorite film. I give it 6 pumpkins out of 5. But let me know your thoughts. Do you hold this movie in as high regard as I do? Does it still hold up in today's world of horror? Where does Michael land on your list of favorite slashers? And what was your favorite kill? Don't forget to subscribe and follow my Twitter and Instagram. Links to those can be found in the description. Next week, there's more to the night he came home in Halloween 2. Until next time, peace.